Hey everybody, welcome back to Pursuing Excellence podcast. I'm Jane Gay, your host, and today I've got Ingrid Walters. She was a competitive runner, swimmer, also an actress. Appreciate her coming on the podcast today. How you doing today, Miss Walters?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you very much. I just finished running, actually. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's good. But again, thank you for coming on. It's always good to expand your your variety and meeting people and everything like that, and just to know, I mean, you're an actress as well as a runner and a swimmer. That's a lot. So I can only imagine what your life might be like. So, but can you tell us a little bit about yourself so we all get to know you a bit better?
Yes, hi. Thank you so much for asking me to do this. I appreciate it. That's very sweet. I grew up basically in Southern California, and I was a swimmer. I was a competitive swimmer first, and then I transitioned to running. But I never thought that I'd ever transition to running, because swimming takes up a lot of your time. It's a very demanding sport. I started competing when I was 6, and I swam all throughout college. I swam my first 2 years at UCLA, and then I stopped after that because I was burnt out. I was burnt out, yeah. And I was just ready to, just see what life was like outside of, doing sports every day. And I was also an LA County beach lifeguard for 10 years.
Wow. Okay.
So I was, I kind of used my swimming skills to get that job, and it was great. I worked on the beach for 10 years, and I started kind of running a little bit, because you have to train a lot for that job.
Right.
And that's sort of how my love of running kind of came about. But it wasn't until I turned 40 that I've started to kind of take it seriously. And that's when I just thought, okay, let me join a team and see where that'll take me. And that's sort of how I started my running career. But I started acting while I was in college. At the end of my senior year at UCLA, I did a play, and I just sort of kind of fell in love with it and started doing a lot of commercials, and I'm still doing it. So,
right.
25 years later, I'm still doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. So how long? So when did you? At what age? Did you start? Swimming and getting into that. How did you get into that?
My dad was a Marine. He was a captain in the Marine Corps, and
wow, okay.
As you know my brother. So my brother and my sister, I'm in the middle. We all swam. We were. I don't even remember learning how to swim because my dad just said, my kids are going to know how to swim.
Right.
And we, what I mean? It's just a skill. It's like crawling, you learn how to swim. And we all swam competitively when we were younger. And then I sort of stuck with it. My sister stuck with it for a little while. My brother kind of stopped when he started playing football.
Right. Yeah.
But, and then I just kept going. I just kept going with it, and we moved around a lot because my dad was in the military. So I swam on a few different youth teams, like club teams, and eventually when we settled in Orange County, I swam for a team. It's called the Mission Viejo Nadadors, and actually if you watch the Olympic trials, there's actually a few swimmers that made the team this year that are from that club team. So it's a pretty prominent swim team, and a lot of really great swimmers come out of it. So I'm really kind of happy that I was a part of that.
Right.
And, and I got recruited. I didn't get a scholarship. I wanted to go to UCLA, and I was basically a walk-on, but I was still recruited from high school. I just wasn't a scholarship athlete, which I'm kind of glad, because I only swam for 2 years because I was done. I was burnt out. Swimming is a very hard sport.
Oh yeah.
It takes a lot out of you. If you've been doing it for a long time, it's you kind of find yourself feeling like, oh gosh, what else is there in life besides getting into a pool twice a day?
Right. Yeah. So what would you say was your their favorite thing about swimming, and then your least favorite thing about swimming?
I think my favorite thing about swimming is the discipline that it gave me, because like I said, swimming is very demanding and it's a year-round sport. It's not seasonal. It's not like soccer. It's not like, seasonal sports. Not to put anything, against any seasonal sport, but swimming is the kind of sport that you have to do every day.
Right.
All year long, or else you lose your fitness. And so there's a certain kind of discipline that comes with that I think helped me as a runner and just as a human being living in the world. It's just taught me a lot of discipline, and that's the one thing that I really appreciate about the sport. And I think it's the least favorite thing about it. Oh man, the least favorite thing. We have to get up really early in the morning.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Really early in the morning. I think that was my least favorite. Was just getting up really early, and you go through also. You're not swimming fast all the time, and especially when you're younger, you go through different phases. You go through puberty, you go through all these different changes, and you're not always swimming fast. You're not always swimming well, and it can get really frustrating, but you just have to stick to it.
Right.
Yeah. You have to stick to it and kind of go through those bumps. But probably the early morning practices,
Yeah.
that was my least favorite. But there wasn't. I made a lot of really great friends that I still have to this day, and that's actually another good thing I liked about the sport as well.
Well, that's
the
good.
Friendships that you make. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So after you were done swimming, how did you get into running and everything like that? Because as I hear, you weren't always a fan of running.
Does my brother tell you that?
He did. Yes.
Yeah. No, I wasn't. It's not that I wasn't a fan. It just wasn't something that I really enjoyed. I just didn't. And that track was, running on a track is like swimming in a pool. So definitely I wasn't going to do both. But when I did stop swimming, I wanted to keep my fitness. So,
right. But
I didn't want to swim. And being a lifeguard, there's a lot of running involved.
Yes.
So I started to, just train a little bit. I ran a marathon, but it was really slow. I wasn't very fast at all. And then I said I was never going to do it again. And 10, 15 years later, I decided to try it again. And I realized, as long as you're training right and you're getting in the miles and you're taking the time to train for a marathon, because it takes a long time.
Right. Yeah.
You're going to get better. And I got a little bit faster, and then I was like, okay, well, let me do another one. And I got a little bit faster on that one. So each one I would get a little bit faster. And then I kind of got stuck at a certain time, around the 3 hours and 10 minute mark. And I wasn't getting any faster. So that's when I decided to join the team here in Santa Monica to see being on a team and maybe having a coach,
right,
would make a difference. And it did, because I ended up,
right. Yeah.
Improving a lot.
Yeah. So I saw, you placed first in 2018 in the marathon in Chicago for in women's race, and also in I think 2019 you also placed first.
Well, in 2018 I wasn't first. It was I was first in my age group.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
I was first in my age group.
Yeah,
and I think I was 60th overall female, and there's 15,000 women, so I was pretty happy about that. But I knew I could go faster, and I knew I could run faster, and so I got with my coach, and we just decided to change things up a little bit with my training. And that's when I really kind of saw what I could do. And I placed first in the women's open at the LA Marathon in 2019.
Yeah.
Whereas the difference is there's the elite division, where they get paid money, and they're all, from, there's a lot of Kenyans and Ethiopians that come down, and so they go first. So they kind of have a separate race, and then everybody else goes. So I was the first woman in that group. So that was
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. And like you said, I mean, running like swimming, those are so very hard, rigorous activities, and especially, I mean, 'cause I used to swim when I was younger, but I never really kept getting into it. Obviously, I just kind of went the football path.
Right.
And but I did learn how to swim when I was younger. But I've known people that have gone on to, continue to swim throughout high school, everything like that. It's just their sport. And like you said, they say it's year round. It's one of those things where it's just, it takes a lot out of you, physically, mentally, one of those types of deals. But, and like I said, running too, I mean, I can only imagine, competitively, the training, the hours you have to put in, the work, I can imagine it's quite endearing. So if you probably could testify to that.
Yeah, but you get out of it what you put into it. So
right.
That's also the beauty of doing an individual sport, is you can, as long as you're training hard, you're going to see results. So that's sort of my motto. You're not always going to be running fast. You're not always going to have great workouts. I mean, I didn't have the greatest workout this morning, but I did it, and I know where I can improve, and I know what I can do better. And
right, yeah. And the way I look at it is, and the way I look at it, it's, like you said, you get out what you put into it. So if you put in good effort, if you put in hard work, you get the results. And if you don't put in good effort, and you put in, lazy work, you're not going to get the results you want, and ultimately that falls on you. So I think, like you said, those individual sports like that really challenges you as a as a person to really, like you got to give perfect effort. I mean, like you said, and it may not always go out how you want it to, but you just keep working and keep going. So I like what you said about that there. It's you get out what you put in. Very true. So I completely agree with that right there. So I noticed you not only did you competitively run and swim, but like you said, you started acting. So I mean, and I've seen that you've been in Amistad, show Grey's Anatomy, very popular show. Baywatch also, and many other things. So before we get to that, how did you get into acting? When did you decide that you want to start being an actress?
It sort of was one of those things where I didn't really know that I wanted to do it until someone asked me to do. I have one of my friends asked me to be in her play in college, and it was something, she was like a midterm that she had written, and she was in the theater department. So she asked me on the way to class one day, and she was like, "Can you read this and be in my play?" Someone dropped out. It's like, okay. So I did it, and I enjoyed it. It was really fun. And then I just, I kind of looked into certain things. I looked into, getting an agent and commercial. My boyfriend at the time was a dancer, and he had a really, really good agent. And he said, "Hey, do you want to meet my agent? I'm sure she'd, love to meet you." I'm like, okay. And I met her, and she said, "Hey, if you can get me some pictures, I'll start sending you out." And so the next week I got some pictures, and I booked my first commercial within 2 months. And
right.
then it just sort of kind of snowballed from there. You know, you have good years and bad years, or good months and bad months, and you know, it's just one of those things where you can't control that like you can control sports. You know, you can't control who calls you in and what, you know, auditions you get.
Right.
And I think that was for me, that was a little bit, that's the difference between being an actor and being an athlete, especially an individual athlete. You have to, you know, when you're an individual athlete, it's like, okay, well, I didn't run fast or do what I wanted to do with this in this workout or this race, but okay, so I can change it. I can change this. I can change that. And then you improve. Whereas, you know, if you're an actor, if you don't get the job, you just don't get the job. It has nothing to do with you personally. You know, it's not really anything you can control. It's just, you have to stay on top of your classes, and, you know, you have to understanding the business side of it, and, you know, and just sticking with it, as opposed to being able to do something about it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'm still doing it, and I love it. And it's, you know, it's been an interesting year, obviously, with COVID and everything.
Right. Yeah.
But everything's kind of slowly coming back to normal, sort of. So.
Right. So
it's been.
Yeah. So with, you know, that brings me to my next question. You know, with COVID and everything, how, you know, I imagine, like you said, it's obviously very different, you know, for all of us around the world. But as far as, you know, in the acting world, you know, and how everything like that, how did it affect you, you know, personally as an actress, and, you know, and how, you know, would you say really affect everybody in that type of business?
Well, everything's shut down, just like in everybody else's world. You know, their jobs, you couldn't go to your jobs, but, you know, in this business, auditions are the most important thing. And when you can't go to an audition, it's, you know, that kind of puts it down. You can't go to try to get a job. So everything switched to now you have to self-tape at home. But at the same time, all production shut down. So there really wasn't anything you could do. There was nothing we could do. So we just had to, you know, you might take some classes online, or you know, get together with somebody and do read a play, or, you know, through Zoom. But there really wasn't anything you can do. We just had to wait like everybody else.
Yeah.
And but it did change a lot of, just audition wise, once things started opening up again. You know, nobody wanted to have in-person auditions, so now we have to put everything on a self-tape, which kind of makes it a little bit easier because you don't have to sit in traffic.
Yeah.
You go all over town. You can just, you know, put it on tape and send it in.
Right.
So it opened up a lot of, I think it opened up a lot of opportunities for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And but it's getting back there. There's a lot of stuff happening now. So it's been an interesting year.
Right. Yeah. It has.
I'm glad it's over. I'm glad we're moving on, because I'm all about just moving on and not dwelling on it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what would you say that you like about acting the most? What's your favorite thing about being an actress?
I think it's just saying, I like to see how people see me, you know, and how, you know, I'll get these auditions, and, you know, they're really going off of your reel, like your work and your photo. And if, you know, the casting person knows who you are and seeing your work, and a lot of the times when you think that you would be right for, you know, it's completely the opposite. It's completely the opposite. So it's always interesting when I'll get something, you know, like you're a cop, or you're a, you know, an abused woman, or you're a, you know, it's all these different things. It's like, great. I kind of like that. It's just not all the same thing.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
So that's to me, that's the most fun, and that's the most interesting, you know?
Right. Yeah. And like you said, I mean, you know, different roles, you have to, I feel like, you know, you have to prepare. Obviously you have to prepare differently for different types of roles, and so getting into that mindset, I guess you would say, like I imagine you find it, interesting because you have to, mentally, I guess, prepare yourself, to act that role.
Well, I think a lot of it is it's not as hard as it sounds, and I know it, and I'm not saying that it's easy because it's not easy either, but at the same time, I think, there's a part of us in every part. I think that somebody plays. There's always you're you.
Yeah.
And this is just my opinion. This isn't something that I've read or whatever. It's just what I think. Is you have to find yourself
right
in each part that you play, and as long as you do that and you're honest, then you're not quote unquote acting.
Yeah.
I mean, you know who you like to see, you know who you like to watch, you know who you're going to pay money to go see. You want to go see them because they do something for you. They make you laugh, or they make you cry, or they make you think about things. And the way that they do it is, it's however they do it. But a lot of the times it's the people that you like, and the people that the majority of people like, is because they just seem like that person. They seem like that character. And a lot of the times it's just part of who they are also. They're just reading other people's words.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. So would you say, like, are there any characters that you've played or that you're currently playing that you find similar to your own self?
I think everything that I've done. I mean, I don't have a huge resume, but it's enough to be like, oh, okay, that was fun. I play a lot of doctors or nurses or wives, and
right.
I like them all. Like, it's not I don't really have a favorite, because I think that like I said, it's really interesting for me to see how people see me, even if I don't see myself that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, oh, really? Like you think I look like a cop, or or this or that, and then there's things that I know how to do that people don't see me as.
Right.
I mean, when I was on Baywatch, obviously I was a lifeguard, but it wasn't. I don't think that's not the first thing you think of when you see me. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna cast her as a lifeguard. It's the last thing you would think. It's the last thing you would think that I was. So there's that too. I can swim and I can run, but you might not see me as that until you see me do it.
Right.
So
yeah.
And I think that's and that's what's fun about it. That's what's fun, especially if it's something I have no clue about. But they're like, oh, no, you totally look like a serial killer. I'm like, oh, wow, okay. Okay, got it.
You're right,
So,
yeah.
It's interesting. Or if I, go in for a mom, and, my kid is 18, and there's been times where I'm like, wait a minute, you don't look like you can have an 18-year-old. Clearly I can have an 18-year-old because I'm almost 50. Right. That's just, but I also understand where I fall too, in terms of how I present to people. Maybe I could have a 10-year-old or a 9-year-old, but having a 20-year-old, yes, that is absolutely possible, but not in that world. Sometimes I might have to wait another 5 years.
Right.
Yeah. So it's, I just think it's fascinating.
All right. Yeah, well, I appreciate you coming on today and joining us on the Pursuing Excellence podcast, Ms. Walters. It was great having you, great talking to you, great learning more about your background and, your story and everything. And it's just...
I did forget to tell you one little thing.
Oh, and what's that?
That I don't know if my brother told you that I had breast cancer last year.
Wow.
He didn't?
No, he didn't.
He didn't.
No.
Yeah. I was like, oh yeah, maybe let you know about that. Yes, I found out after the LA Marathon, and it was a shock because no one has it in our family. And so I had a double mastectomy. I went through chemotherapy and radiation, and just to get back to the running thing, I ran through it, and I ran through that whole experience. And, you know, running has saved me in a lot more ways than just, you know, being like my therapy. I think it's physically got me through that time in my life, which was just a year and a half ago. So
wow,
I wanted to just throw that in there.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, I had no idea. Wow, the fact that you even the fact that you even persevered through that, that's amazing, you know. And it's wow, you know.
Yeah, it was because it happened right before COVID. So
right.
Yeah, which actually was a good thing, because, you know, the hospitals weren't as crowded, and everything was I wasn't missing anything, you know, nothing was happening. So I got to kind of go through a big chunk of my treatment, you know, during COVID. So it was kind of nice.
Wow.
But yeah, I just wanted to add that little thing.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. In case anybody's going through that, it's not the end of the world. It's not a death sentence.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Well, again, yeah. Thank you, Ms. Walters, for sharing your story with us today. I appreciate it. I appreciate your time, and I want to say, you know, good luck to you, you know, in your career and everything going on at the department. And thank you for calling the podcast today on the Pursuing Excellence podcast. It was great having you on.
Thank you.
Thank you. And you have a blessed day.
All right. You too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Hey, everybody. That was Ingrid Walters. She, like I said, she's an actress, and she was also a competitive runner and swimmer, and also, you know, like I said, she's been in a lot of things, a lot of shows, Grey's Anatomy, Baywatch, been in the film Amistad, a lot of things like that, but also, you know, competing and, you know, swimming and running as well. So it's great to have her on here and her story today. But thank you guys for tuning in on the Pursuing Excellence podcast. I'll see you guys next time.